Let's go to this story now. Political and trade relations will feature as President Cyril Ramaphosa hosts Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni. The East African leader is in the country on his first state visit since 2011. Continental peace and security will also be on the agenda, with both countries playing a role in conflict resolution. The pair are also set to participate in a business forum a little bit later on today. But for now, let's cross to our senior reporter, Siphamandla Goge. He is still at the Union Buildings, where the program is officially now underway. Siphamandla, they are, I believe, in that locked meeting, those two states' presidents, along with the ministers that they brought with them. I'm pretty sure that the discussions there are probably very vigorous.
Indeed, it's to be expected. Those discussions are underway as we speak. This state visit is officially underway now. President Cyril Ramaphosa hosting President Yoweri Museveni. Those discussions are underway. They are discussing a number of things. Agenda items include issues of trade, investment, peace and stability in the Great Lakes region and within the continent of Africa. Russia-Ukraine war will also feature strongly there. And the issue of making it easy for both countries to do business. There has been an outcry in terms of the numbers and rands, if you quantify it, about 3 billion rand in terms of investment. That's how much it's worth, and that's very little. It's very low. It's too low if you take into account that both South Africa and Uganda have been enjoying cordial relations since 1994. So today they will be talking about how to boost that, how to ensure that there is that increased movement of people to people movement and also goods movement between Uganda and South Africa, also ensuring that these relations are enhanced when it comes to trade and industry or trade and investment, but also cooperating in other aspects, issues of energy, issues of transport. Hence, you see a number of government ministers are supporting President Ramaphosa when it comes to these discussions or talks. Of course, they are led by Minister Naledi Pandor, who's responsible for international relations and cooperation. Hence, the issue of Russia-Ukraine war will be discussed. I asked Minister Pandor about it, and this is how he responded, or rather, this is how she responded.
Absolutely, I know it's on the agenda and it will be discussed because both leaders have an interest in supporting a process that would lead to the two parties coming together and working with other leaders to begin to find a resolution.
It would appear that China is joining South Africa and other countries in calling for diplomacy to be given chance and space in resolving that ongoing war. What do you make of China's involvement of late in pushing for a peace deal?
Well, I regard it as a prelude because having been in negotiations, I know that it's very difficult for parties outside of a conflict to set the terms. It has to be the parties themselves. What you can do is really use convening power, which is what we've been calling for, that we have a set of leaders and countries that can draw Russia and Ukraine to a table, and we believe that the United Nations must play a leading role in that process.
And of course, there's that, bilateral relation economic imbalance in favor of South Africa, Siphamandla, because it looks like many of our direct foreign investment, much of it is more us to Uganda or us in Uganda, more than Uganda having businesses operating here.
And that's the status quo that the Ugandans would want to see change because it's not balanced. It favors South Africa currently. A number of South African businesses are doing well in Uganda. And the question is, why are Ugandans not doing well in South Africa? What are the hindrances? What stops them in terms of establishing businesses and investments in South Africa? Of course, it brings into the debate the issue of tariffs and all other things that need to be looked at. Hence, you will have, ministers responsible for trade, competition and investment, trying to discuss what needs to be done to ease the way of doing business in South Africa for Ugandans, because South Africa is already well established in Uganda in terms of her companies doing business there. It's a question of how to balance these relations to favor both countries in this regard, who have been enjoying cordial relations since 1994. And I guess after this, that's where you will see then that there will be a business forum in Kalakai State, which is said to be addressed by both presidents. And I guess they will be focusing on that to say, how do we balance this relationship? How do we ensure that both countries benefit out of this? It should be a two-way street, not only benefiting one superpower, which is South Africa, but also Uganda would want to see some economic spin-offs in this regard. And I'm sure that will be one of the strong points that they will be discussing. And it talks to the issue of the visa regimes, and the movement between the two countries, all citizens of South Africa and Uganda, but also most importantly for businesses to be able to operate freely in both countries. These are the countries that are different and unique in their own rights. They've got their own domestic issues, even though today's gathering and state visit is mainly about foreign policy, diplomacy and international relations, but we can't take away the fact that both countries are dealing with their domestic issues. In Uganda, there are those who are accusing President Yoweri Museveni of being a dictator, someone who is suppressing democracy and freedom fighters in that country, and a number of challenges in South Africa. As I'm told that we are out of time, let's take a listen to this bite about Minister Naledi Pandor when she answered my question about a warning that has been issued by the Americans when it comes to the issue of the energy crisis in this country. Let's take a listen.
I found it rather surprising and odd. I don't recall such alerts being issued when California had similar blackouts and outages to South Africa. So I found it a rather odd warning, but there have been many of these surprise warnings, and none of what is warned about has come to fruition.